9 recaps of the 2022 NFL season. All right, and kicking things off, we're going to start with the Thursday night game that I'm pretty sure everybody loved and watched. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Houston Texans. And this was actually a close game for really the entire first half, but then Jalen Hurts decided, and the Eagles decided, hey, we know how to play football. And then they pulled away from the Houston Texans, who could do nothing but put up a field goal in the second half, kind of looking like the Buffalo Bills. But the Philadelphia Eagles came out with a win in Houston and now remain undefeated at 8-0. And now we go to the Sunday games. We'll start out with the Dolphins and the Bears, as this one was actually a very good matchup. This was a surprisingly high-scoring affair where Justin Fields ran for over 170 yards on the Miami Dolphins because he decided to unleash his inner Lamar Jackson and not be able to throw the ball but rush it at a very high level. Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins were able to do a lot of good things and are 5-0 in games in which Tua didn't get murdered. So there you go. Despite acquiring Bradley Chubb, this defense was still unable to shut down a Bears offense that doesn't really have a wide receiver outside of Darnell Mooney that, anybody can remember by name. But it's okay because Justin Fields ended up doing a lot of the work, if not all of the work, for the Chicago Bears offense. The Bears look good and the Dolphins look good as well, but unfortunately for the Bears, they just came up short. Next up, we have the Panthers and the Bengals, and despite not having Jamar Chase, the number one wide receiver, the Cincinnati Bengals were able to take care of business and win, putting up twice the amount of points that the Carolina Panthers did. I thought I saw something about PJ Walker and him leaving the game, but I could have just been tripping balls. The Cincinnati Bengals were able to come out, get the win, and go to 5-4 and claw to within a game of the Baltimore Ravens because they ended up winning their matchup, where we'll get to at the end of the video, or at least towards the end of it. Next up, we had one of four games that ended up being 20-17, and that was the Chargers and the Falcons. Falcons jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and then after that, the Chargers were coming back, and then the Chargers were basically trying to give the game to the Falcons, and the Falcons were also trying to give the game to the Chargers. So it was just a battle of who wanted to lose it more, and evidently the Falcons wanted to lose it more. And I guess the last time these two teams played, it was the same exact result. The winner won on a game-winning field goal. Chargers advanced to 5-3 and get to within a game of the Kansas City Chiefs, who won their game on Sunday night. Next up, we'll go to the NFC side of things. We have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions, one of, if not the worst defenses in the league, and the Packers were only able to muster 9 points. It's an absolute letdown for a team that's coming off of a loss to Buffalo, and now they're coming off of a loss to Detroit going into next week's game. The Packers now, they sit at 3-6 in a very piss-poor spot. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions sit at 2-6 in a piss-poor spot, but I think everybody expected the Lions to be in such a spot. I don't think anybody expected the Green Bay Packers to be this bad. The Detroit Lions defense actually looked competent, and despite the offensive struggles, this team was able to put up, enough points to beat the Packers, which was 15. Then we got the Vikings taking on the Washington Foreskins. This one I felt like could have been a trap game, and it was, considering Washington jumped out to a 10-point lead at one point in the game. But the Minnesota Vikings did not let go. No offense to the Titanic. But the Minnesota Vikings were able to come out. They were able to get the win thanks to a Justin Jefferson touchdown and afternoon Kirk Cousins. The Minnesota Vikings were able to take care of business and beat the Washington Foreskins. And then we want to go to one of the better games in the AFC, one of the more entertaining games, the New England Patriots smashing the Colts, because that's what we all want to see nowadays. The New England defense made the Indianapolis Colts and rookie quarterback Sam Ehlinger look like a JV high school football team, while this offense was putting up points for the New England Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson having himself another nice game, and the Colts just continuing to fall apart, firing their head coach Frank Reich as a result of this loss, and now they drop to 3-5-1, while the New England Patriots go to 5-4 in a surprisingly very competitive AFC East. And speaking of a competitive AFC East, we have what could have been an absolute blowout for the New York Jets, for the Buffalo Bills, but the defense was able to keep them in there despite Josh Allen and the Bills not playing very competent football. But in all seriousness, though, Josh Allen does have a UCL. Well, he's being inspected for a UCL injury, so I mean, I'm really hoping that doesn't, affect him super long term. He had an injury like this in his rookie season, but he was able to play after 4 games. But anyways, we're gonna get that out of the way. Hopefully, Josh Allen and the rest of that Bills team, they're able to recover from their injuries, and I hope that these injuries don't affect them long term. Not just because they're great players, but because they're great people. Man, I would never want to wish any player to get injured, even if it was someone on the Jets or the Dolphins. But for the Jets, they played a heck of a game. Their defense looking like a top 3 defense in the entire league. Meanwhile, Zach Wilson throwing a touchdown pass, thinking about potentially bagging Giselle at the end of the game after beating one of the league's, if not the league's, best team in the Buffalo Bills. So the Jets actually look like a competent team, and the Bills are starting to look like an incompetent team. And we'll see how far the injury to Josh Allen affects the Buffalo Bills. Next up, we have what I believe was the final 10 o'clock game, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, with the Raiders and the Jaguars. The Raiders jumped out to a nice lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars once again. And for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they came back and took a 24-20 lead after being down, I believe, 20-0 at one point. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they looked like a competent team in the second half, while for the Raiders, they absolutely raided it and had an epic second half collapse. No offense to the LA Chargers and them charging every single game. But the Las Vegas Raiders, they looked like a competent team. It looked like it was going to be a blowout after jumping out to a 20-17 lead. They were up 17-0 at one point in the second quarter, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, they were able to take care of business, get things going in the second half, starting with a third quarter touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, and then Travis Etienne hitting the end zone for his second touchdown. Going for over 100 yards, and the Jacksonville Jaguars took care of business at home and defeated the Las Vegas Raiders. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. And with this one, the Arizona Cardinals, I guess, were too busy playing Call of Duty, no offense to Kyler Murray, as the Seattle Seahawks were able to pull away. They were down for a little bit, but then when Kyler Murray got Call of Duty on his mind, the Seattle Seahawks started taking advantage of a distracted Kyler Murray, and they were able to jump out and win 31-21, with the offense and Geno Smith continuing to look like the second coming of the New England Patriots with Tom Brady. Looking like the GOAT offense over here. I don't know what is going on with the Seattle Seahawks, but they are looking absolutely fantastic. Next up, we had the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This was a very, very disappointing game. I mean, neither of these teams put up an insane amount of points, but Tom Brady did what Tom Brady did, and he ended up with a game-winning drive, defeating the LA Rams. And it just goes to show that Giselle had absolutely no impact on this game, and Tom Brady and the Buccaneers were able to get back on track and retain first place in the NFC South. That looks like a surprisingly competitive division in the NFC Conference at this point. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs. For a lot of the game, the Tennessee Titans, they really felt like this game was going to go to them. They were able to keep the Chiefs off the field, but Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense were able to do what the Chiefs offense has always been able to do. The Chiefs offense came out one drive in the second half, got a touchdown, and Mahomes surprisingly didn't carve him up with his arm. They carved him up with his legs. Kermit the Frog ended up taking it in for a touchdown, and then he ran it in for a 2-point conversion after a series of penalties that hurt the Tennessee Titans. And the Chiefs went to overtime, and despite getting the ball first, they were unable to score a touchdown. And the Tennessee Titans were given a second chance, no offense to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, but they could not do anything with their opportunity, and the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately ended up I could be wrong about that. The Kansas City Chiefs, all I know is that they got a field goal. They ended up winning. And that's all she wrote for the game between the Tennessee Titans and the Kansas City Chiefs. As I look up what happened in overtime. No, the Chiefs I'm sorry, I was mistaken. The Kansas City Chiefs, they ended up getting a field goal, but then the Tennessee Titans were able to get a chance, and they were unable to do anything with that chance. So the Kansas City Chiefs ended up winning that game. Sorry, that was bad. This game I didn't really see a whole lot of. Lamar Jackson on the Ravens. All I looked at was the fantasy stuff and Chris Olave getting me like 10 points in my work league. But it's okay because I had the Ravens defense that surprisingly didn't choke in the second half of a game. I was actually at a college basketball game because the NCAA season is starting up. The Baltimore Ravens actually look like a competent team despite not having Mark Andrews. They look like a good team despite not having Mark Andrews on their team. This is a very inconsistent bunch, but it's a very good bunch when they're actually on their A game. Throwing to Isaiah Likely to open up the game, that was about the only touchdown that I saw, and that was about the only moment in the game that I cared to watch, as I figured the Ravens would just run away with this game, and they did, defeating the New Orleans Saints 27-13. And there you go, that's the Week 9 recap. Quite a few picks that I got wrong. I ended up picking the Bills game wrong. I picked the Raiders game wrong. I picked the Seahawks game incorrectly. And then I picked the Packers game incorrectly. So, all in all, I went 9-4 this week through 13 games, bringing my record to a lot of wins and a lot of losses. But let me know what you guys thought of Week 9 in the comments below. And with that being said, if you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe if you're new, and click that notification bell to get all the latest news on all my latest content. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.